got a bidet!
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we got some exciting stuff to talk about for the Bad Batch this week. We got 2 episodes, which is even more exciting than, every other week where we get only one. So we got basically double the amount of content this week, and for good reason too. The plot that we got from this week definitely needed 2 episodes to cover, and I think they did it pretty well. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about what happened in both the episodes. I'll tell you where they break because there is a specific spot, but we'll talk about what's going on in both of them, and then give our thoughts on the overall between the 2 of them. I see this as like one episode. I don't really see this as 2 separated pieces, if that makes sense. I think that's why they released them together.
It's all
So
one story.
yeah, it's all one cohesive thing. It's just a matter of they gave you a good spot to pause if you needed a bathroom break or something after 20 minutes. So let's just start talking about the episodes. So the first one starts off with a couple of I believe retired clones, or at least they're not off fighting in wars and stuff, and they're talking to one another because they are kind of worried about their future, and also they know about what happened on Camino when Rampart destroyed the city. And this is very important because there's like a small subplot section where Rampart is actually trying to eliminate the clones that were on his freighter. I think Venator is what it was, uh, because they all know what actually happened, whereas Rampart is, twisting these reports and saying that something else happened to the city. They're saying that he didn't do it, he didn't destroy it. So these 2 clones are talking kind of at a bar, and as they're leaving, one of them gets shot and killed. And so this is how we start to figure out that someone's trying to pick apart these clones that know too much. And we get a new bounty hunter character involved here too. I don't recognize them, so that's why I say they're new. Maybe they were used in a different show or something. I don't
I
remember.
don't think they ever revealed their name either.
I don't think so either. They're very discreet about it. But what's kind of happening here with the clones and so some other clones is, one, the ones that were on that ship are worried about, being killed. But also there's the other clones that weren't a part of that group, and they have an issue of basically they feel that now that the Clone Wars are over, that they're being pushed to the side and they're feeling worthless. It's kind of a almost a visual, or like when I think of this, I think about when I think it was, can't remember if it was World War I or World War II. There was a time where a bunch of veterans came back and they didn't have jobs and stuff, and so there was this massive issue within the job force. And it's kind of reflective here. After the clones are used, they're having a hard time adjusting back to normal society because that's what the Empire wants to do. The Emperor has his plan of, getting rid of clones and bringing in stormtroopers, which we'll get to a little later. But also Rampart is a part of that too. So we get some Senate stuff where they're going back and forth on this topic specifically, where I think they said her name was Chuchi. Was that her name? Senator Chuchi?
I'll look it up.
If not, I'm very close. She is fighting for the rights of the clones. She does not want them to be just tossed to the side. She wants them to be respected and, taken care of and heard, so to speak. Got the name right? Cool. However, there's this concern that, with the clones having this, they have accelerated growth rate so that they're aging faster. They've basically been used for the time that they needed, and now they're on their way out in the eyes of the Empire. They're product as opposed to people. And Senator Chuchi wants the clones to be treated as people. So we have that dynamic going on. We do not see the Emperor in the Senate chambers when this is all going on. They actually make a point to say that when these critical things are being talked about, the Emperor is nowhere around. What's he doing? Like, does he even care? Because his assistant dude is always there, speaking for him. So they're kind of showing that the Emperor doesn't really take part in a lot of the Senate dealings. He's kind of only there when really important things are happening, which again, foreshadowing. But Senator Chuchi figures out that there are clones that were on the ship when Rampart destroyed the city on Kamino. And so she's trying to seek out the clones that have that information. And she wants to learn more because this would help her case of, someone's trying to get rid of the clones. This wasn't natural because the Senate is been told that some natural disaster occurred, something that, wasn't planned by the Empire. And so she seeks out this clone and eventually finds him. But while they're talking, he's kind of like, if you found me, then that means they can find me, because he had been talking to someone else that was a clone that could get him off the planet, off record, and just disappear, essentially. And amidst their talking, that clone gets killed too. So both the clones that we met at the beginning are shot and killed by this bounty hunter. And we learn that this bounty hunter is actually hired by Rampart. And during this little interaction between Senator Chuchi and the clone, the bounty hunter's orders were to kill the clone, and if Chuchi's there, take her out too. Didn't really care. So after the clone is killed, Chuchi and her bodyguards are trying to get her away. Eventually she does, and she is saved by no one other than Commander Cody. Cody was supposed, or not, Captain Rex. Sorry, I am so sorry. That was Captain Rex. Cody was in another episode. That's why I just jumped to my brain. Captain Rex saved Senator Chuchi and her group, and he was the one that was supposed to be helping.
Her guards were killed.
All of them?
I believe so. I think it's just Chuchi that was left.
Oh, all right. So just Chuchi. Captain Rex was able to take out the bounty hunter before Chuchi was killed, but unfortunately not before all her guards were killed. But that was the clone that was talking with Chuchi a second ago. Rex was the person that was supposed to help him out, because Rex is off the grid. He knows how to do it. So Rex kind of gets this idea, or figures out what's going on, with Senator Chuchi. And this is about where the first episode ends, because he knows a group, that might be able to help in this instance, which is the Bad Batch. And so episode 2 is having the Bad Batch involved, where there is the tape or data files, whatever you want to call them, still on Rampart's ship of Rampart destroying the city. Like, it's on video, so to speak, or on hologram, because this is Star Wars. And so their mission is to get on the ship, grab that hologram, and get it to Senator Chuchi, so that she can show everybody that, the Empire is plotting against the clones, and here's the proof. And so the Bad Batch, they go into the ship, they sneak onto it. Uh, I would say if you want to see the details of it, just watch it. You know, it's a progress of them going through the ship, and then eventually they will get the data tape thing. Um, what happens next is that Chuchi is in the Senate going back and forth on the clone dealings, and she's kind of trying to buy time while they're all arguing so that the clones, the Bad Batch, I should say, can get that data tape, and then it's basically a passing of the torch until it gets to the Senate. They hand it off to one person, and then they zip it to the next person, and then it eventually gets to Senator Chuchi. And so, right when it seems like everything is going to wrap up, and they're going to be against Senator Chuchi, she gets the data hologram thing, and she plugs it in, and she's like, "I got proof." And so the entire Senate gets to see uh, Rampart's ship just destroying the city. And so it is revealed that, Rampart has been behind this the whole time. He's been lying. Not only that, he's been messing with, the I'm getting ahead of myself. The Empire or Imperial files. I don't know why it's so hard to say that. He's been messing with those reports. So, right out in front of everybody, he has been revealed to be someone that is being very, very dishonest in the Empire. Because you got to remember, the Empire, even though the Emperor is evil, he's trying to come across as somebody that is helpful. So he can't have, Rampart getting caught destroying the facility and then looking like it was all part of the Empire's plan all along. So Rampart is exposed, and there's a little bit of ruffling in the Senate, and then we get probably the best part of both of these episodes. The Emperor comes out. There's like this noise that happens, and his little pod thing comes out of the ground, so to speak, of the Senate, and he comes up, and he's in the middle of everybody, and basically says, what Rampart did was wrong and he will be punished for it. So he's looking like the good guy. But here's where he's smart. So we know that the Empire is trying to weed out the clones, right? That's the whole part or the whole point of what they were arguing about in the beginning. And then, Chuchi was trying to say, these are people. You can't do this to them. Well, the Emperor says, well, Rampart might have done this, but there were clones on that ship, and they didn't question whether this was right or wrong, and they just destroyed their home without question. So can we really trust these people? And so now the Emperor is trying to take a situation where he probably had something to do with it and flipped it where he could have been caught, but he's turning it into what he wants anyways. And so now there's this idea of the clones are untrustworthy and we need something else. And this is when he actually declares, like, we are going to move on from clones and we are going to bring up stormtroopers. And he actually like names them and says, this is where we're heading. And so this is what's going to push. I don't think they officially voted on it, but I think it is what's going to push the Senate to officially write off the clones and start investing in stormtroopers. One other big thing that happened from this episode, because that's kind of where the arc ends, is that Senator Chuchi, and I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but Senator Chuchi is kind of showing Omega how the Senate works. So Omega has been sitting in on the debates and whatnot so that she can kind of learn what's happening. And so I don't know if that's going to play much of a role in the future, but it is adding to Omega's character of learning about the world around her and what she should be aware of during these times. So was there anything big that you think that I missed from the recap?
Yes. Did you forget
Oh,
about Echo?
oh yeah, I did forget about Echo. Echo decided that it was his time to kind of move on or move away from the group, and he went off with Captain Rex. He is now going to be partnered with him. So don't really know what's going to happen with that. Um, like if we're going to get the kind of like how we had an episode with Crosshair, it was just about Crosshair. If we're going to get episodes where it's just about Echo and Rex, maybe. But yeah, Echo has left our official Bad Batch group and he's going off with Captain Rex.
My prediction is that they're gonna have at least 3 or 4 episodes without him, and then there'll be some sort of way for their paths to cross, like Captain Rex needs the whole team for a mission, or they both go to fight the same cause, or they're both trying to attack the same base, or something where they both end up there together. And by both, I mean our normal Bad Batch group, and then Captain Rex and Echo, so you see their paths cross somehow. That's my guess.
I say
Oh,
I don't have much of a predictions. Like the one thing that I just kind of thought of on the spot is I wonder if um Omega might overstay her welcome on listening on some of the Senate things and maybe uh she will be taken prisoner and then that would be one way to bring them all back together. But I think that's a little far-fetched.
I think her placement on the Senate was really just more or less of here's a safe place for you to hang out while the rest of the team goes to get these files.
I
I don't
think
think it
so
was
too.
really something that she's going to stay there for too long. I think now that the mission's done, she's going to move away from the Senate because they had mentioned in the episode how dangerous Coruscant is for that group.
Yeah, because when Captain Rex called them, it was like, I have a mission for you. And then Coruscant and Hunter was kind of like, what? But they did it anyways.
Which that's going to lead right into my thoughts, if you don't mind, about this episode. One of the things that I thought was really odd was we had a scene in a hallway passing where Omega is with Senator Chuchi and they cross paths with
Rampart?
Admiral, is it Admiral Rampart? Is
I
he an
believe
admiral?
so.
So they cross paths in the hallway, like they pass each other. He says something to Chuchi, she says something back or whatever. Like it's not like a big deal. But he very clearly sees Omega. Like, how could you not see her there? And it strikes me really odd that that didn't mean anything and it didn't come to anything because if he fought so hard in a previous episode to have the files be changed and reported inaccurately on purpose to show that the Bad Batch is still dead, he very clearly knows who the Bad Batch is. How would he not know who Omega is?
I don't know. And that's one of the things where I was kind of wondering, does he know that she is one of them? Because he's convinced that um the Bad Batch group is destroyed from the destruction of the Camino facility because I think it was the second episode. There, one of the clones had said to him, "We saw Clone Force 99," and he was like, "There's no way I destroyed them," and so he killed that clone to keep him quiet. So he's definitely aware of Clone Force 99. I don't know if he's aware of Omega being a part of that lineage. I don't know.
I'm not sure, I guess, but it seems a little suspicious of, you know, it's a little too much her being in plain sight in a dangerous place and nothing happening from it. Um, it sits funny. But apart from that, because I mean that's a very small part of the episode, right? I mean it's just two people walking past in a hallway. Um, the rest of the episode I thought was all right, and I feel like I say that a lot, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, oh my God, my eyes are glued to the screen either. And I feel like I say that a lot for this show, but
I would say
one
it's fair
part,
to say that about this show in general. Um, I think we talked about in the past that we don't really have expectations for episode to episode just because of what happened last year. But I think it's fair. I think
yeah.
it's fair that you think it's fair.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I got your approval there. Um, The one part that I did think was cool was the part that you touched on at the end about Emperor Palpatine and how, and they spelled this out. Like the Bad Batch and Captain Rex, when they're talking about this at the end, like they spelled it out for you. There was no guessing of, is that really what he was doing? They spoon fed you what was happening, of, like a recap of how the Emperor, he he obviously wanted his troops to be funded, but he had to come up with a way to get them to be funded without just saying fund my troops. So by allowing the stir and the ruckus and the bad energy to be focused on Rampart, it got rid of all the bad energy focused on the new stormtrooper funding. So it made everybody think like, oh, that actually is a good idea. Rampart's the one who's the bad idea. So the trickery to be able to get that to go in his favor. Some might say it's like he's playing chess instead of checkers. He knows what he's doing. He's thinking so many steps ahead. Um, that I think was probably the best part of the episode.
It was by far, I think, the best part of the episode. Um, I think for these two episodes, I think it was good that they released them both at the same time. That way, we kind of got it. If the first episode was released on its own, I feel like it would have so many questions that it wouldn't have really established anything, if that kind of makes sense. So they really needed the second episode to bring to light what was happening with the first one. But I will say, I think what I really liked about these two episodes is that this is the kind of, I feel like this is more along the lines of feeling like Star Wars and being able to address dark topics of Star Wars. And I say that because that was the big back and forth for Andor's show, is that, the entire Andor show was a very, very dark story, but it didn't feel like Star Wars to a lot of people, me included. I felt like Andor did not feel like Star Wars, whereas this felt more like Star Wars to me. And they were able to, tell a very, very, in my opinion, grim story of, we had all these people that the Republic was banking on helping, make the galaxy a better place, being the clones. And then now that the Clone Wars are over, they're just thrown to the side. There was these people that were supposed to help us in so many ways, and then now we just disrespect them and we're trying to replace them with something else. We don't even know if that something else is going to be better. So just that idea alone, I think, was interesting to touch on. It gave more personality, or I want to say like more color to the situation. I don't know how to describe that, but it painted a bigger picture for the clones of, they're not just a tool like the Empire is trying to treat them as. They were actually people. And so with all this happening, it is a dark, grim story, because there's these people that were fighting for you, and now they're being tossed to the side. Unfortunately, they do have the accelerated growth. So even if the Empire didn't get this passed for the new army, it'd probably be within a few years or so, I don't know, a decade, maybe two, where a lot of those clones would have died off, and then the Empire would have gotten its way. But aside from that, I thought it was also really brilliant to show the Emperor's way, like you said, kind of like playing chess with the world. We've talked about on previous podcasts on this channel that the Emperor was very much playing this entire game himself. He was the leader of the clones. He was the leader of the separatists. So he, made this own war by himself. And it's the same thing here. You know, he's both on the good and the bad side, and he's just weaving his evil plans between the two perfectly. He was watching this happen, and he was like, well, you know what? I'm going to put the blame on the clones, even though this is all about Rampart and this is going to help me get what I want. He knows it. And I think Dave Filoni and the crew did a great job of um, showing Palpatine's character through this show. And like I said, I think it's more Star Wars feeling than some others. So that's what I really appreciated about these episodes. I also really appreciated that I'm pretty sure Ian McDiarmid was the one voicing the Emperor. I think I saw his name there in the credits. So that was cool. He's like being a part of all the different projects now, which is super neat. Not to say Sam Witwer does a very, very good job with the Emperor as well, but it is cool to have the actor himself playing as well. Other than that, all I
How
would
do you
say,
how do you feel about Echo being gone? Do you feel like that's a major loss, or like see ya, don't really care?
I didn't really care too much about Echo. So I like Hunter and Wrecker for the most part, and then Tech is kind of there too because he has that like dry sense of humor. Um, but I feel like Echo didn't add a whole lot besides being basically a machine because he had all those weird parts that he could use. So I'm not too crushed by it. Maybe it'll let Tech and Wrecker have more attention because I like them more on screen.
I'm feeling the same way. Wrecker's definitely my favorite, I think, followed by Tech. I used to really be big on Omega, but she's become a little too whiny for me. And it's not even so much whiny, it's just more or less of she speaks out of turn a lot and basically puts her foot in her mouth and volunteers the Bad Batch to do a lot of things that they didn't necessarily plan on doing. And I think it's pretty weird to have a kid calling all the shots like that. So I'm slowly stepping away from being a big Omega fan. Um, but I do definitely like Wrecker, and I think Tech is probably my second favorite. Hunter, he's okay too. I don't really have anything against him. He's just kind of generic, I guess, if you will. He's the typical, in my eyes, it's kind of like the Mandalorian again, where he's the dad that didn't sign up to be a dad, but he's a dad anyway because he just kind of got thrown into that situation and he's trying to make it work. Um,
He is Rambo, so
he does have that going for him. In terms of Echo, I feel like we really didn't get enough character development on him specifically. Like, we've got Wrecker's sense of humor. Hunter has the dad thing going on. Tech has, he's always doing all these calculations and stuff. He was the one who was the pilot for that race and like the what was that pod racing? It wasn't pod racing. What was that called?
I forget. I have to
The
look
race
at.
the racing episode that they did.
Yeah, they did a riot racing. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Riot racing. Yeah, I think so. Um, Echo hasn't really had anything like that. He's kind of just been in the background for almost all the episodes. He's not a very memorable character, um, at least in my opinion. So I don't really see it as a big loss. If anything, I almost kind of see it as a plus because maybe we can focus more on the characters we do like. And instead of just having to, have little bits and pieces trying to shed some light on him, there'll be a little bit more time for everybody else. Um, it's pretty harsh to say, but I mean, it is what it is. So,
I will say about Omega, she's kind of in those teen years where she believes that, she can be uh, in charge of these adults. So that's probably what's going on. I feel like the Clone Force 99 doesn't have like they're not necessarily dads and they didn't really sign up to be a dad. So I kind of wonder if they don't understand that they have kind of the authority to tell her, no, sit down, be quiet, kind of a thing. I wonder
She
if
does
they're,
reference them as her brothers.
I wonder if they just have an issue with, you know, if we tell her no, she might do it anyways. So we might as well just do it and make sure she's safe, kind of a thing. Like maybe they don't know how to deal with that yet.
Does this does the Bad Batch and Omega have the growth accelerators or the aging accelerators? I
I,
thought that everybody would have that, but this is a Bad Batch, so I don't know
there's
if
there's only one clone that doesn't. So I would say yes, they do. The one clone that does not have the growth accelerator is Boba.
what makes this team the Bad Batch then.
Because they have little quirks basically. Like for instance, Crosshair has a very heightened ability of being able to be super accurate with his shots. Um, Wrecker is ungodly strong. Uh, Tech is very, very, very smart with technology, stuff like that. They have different parts of their um, brain, so to speak, that are heightened.
Would you say that even for Omega then, in terms of the growth accelerator?
I think she has it. I don't remember if she doesn't. I'm gonna look it up.
They were using her for something special, and the fact that she's still a child when everybody else is adults, you never see any other clone children her age. And the reason why I'm getting at this is I think she's only like 10 years old. I also don't know how much of a growth accelerator it is. Is it like 1 year is like 5 years? 1 year is like 3 years? Do you happen to know that?
Say that again.
How fast is the age accelerator? Is it like one normal
I
year
think
they
it's
grow
double.
5 years?
I think it's double.
Okay.
Um, so they're referencing I just went to the first one that I could find, and they pulled a quote that said, this is from Den of Geek to give credit where I'm finding it from. Um, it says all clones were created from a host named Jango Fett, while our genetic structure was modified for growth and acceleration and obedience. Omega is a pure genetic replication.
So Omega does not have it, I don't think.
Sounds like she doesn't, but it's interesting. Like, I guess that would fit because in episode 2 when the Tunwi tells Obi-Wan, we have all these clones except for one unaltered clone. At that point in time, Omega was not a thing. Omega
Right.
wasn't a thing till much later, so that could fit. So maybe she isn't a uh altered clone. Interesting though that she's an exact replica, but yet she's female. So what altering thing happened there? She's the only female clone.
I don't know, but she was wanted originally for her blood or something like that, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting kind of off topic. This is supposed to be about the 2 episodes, not a character deep dive. Um,
Well, that's all I got for the episode.
I think long story short, we're kind of wondering where Omega's character is going. And, this episode, she was kind of side or episodes, I should say. She was kind of put off to the side while the rest of the group did something. But based on all the other things that she's done in this series so far with season 2, it kind of seems like she's calling the shots and the rest of them are following along. Whereas it should be Hunter because he's the leader. But yeah, that is our little discussion on the 2 episodes that dropped this week. Again, there are 2 normal 20-minute episodes. They probably could have been 1 just based on what happened. But check them out. They are really good. They are not, and I repeat, they are not filler episodes. So definitely check these ones out if you are looking for, some rich Star Wars lore type stuff in the Bad Batch. If you enjoyed our discussion, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are notified when more of these drop. We will be finishing the Bad Batch, but we also got Mando coming up very, very soon. And also, if you like our Star Wars type talks, we also have a podcast called Shoot the Sheev that we've had out for a few weeks now. So make sure to check that out. Those are hour-long podcasts where we talk about different topics every week. So make sure to check us out over there. There is a playlist. Drop us a like if you like the video and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts between these two episodes released this week. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.